You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Sean, what in the world happened on Saturday night to LSU?
Matt, remember last week we were on, I said, listen, I know that LSU's better than Texas A&M. I said it to you, and I said it on my show when we were discussing it. Anywhere anybody else had me on, that when we were looking at games, I said it to you, I said, be careful if you're LSU. Be careful because I know, and not even to look ahead, but not go in with laser focus and physicality, because A&M's humiliated themselves this year. They got a coach that a lot of people say, well, we should fire him. He's already fired Daryl Dickey. I mean, this is obviously post that game. Going in, they've gone back and forth 4 different times with quarterbacks. They're settled on a freshman. All these things, and I said, be careful because they're dangerous. Why? They're more talented than their record. They've highly underachieved, been the most overrated team from the beginning of the season now in the country. But they're dangerous because at that point in time, you're just playing for your ego, pride, and save a little face after getting you, and to be a spoiler and ruin it for somebody. I said, so you just got to be careful. LSU's a better team. Well, they got manhandled. That's the problem. Yeah. They didn't have to throw it, but 15 times, I think, by Wegman, and he's a really good player, and he brings versatility, and he's smart. Ball came out, but big play, they ran the football, 50 times, I think it was last week, the total number. When you're doing that, you're controlling everything. And I was, quite frankly, with a lot of the youth on A&M's team, I was surprised at how physically dominating they were in the game. And I know people are going to say, well, see, that's who A&M is. Well, we'll see moving forward. But I can tell you this, no bowl game for them. All these things makes for a dangerous team because with all the people they recruit, they're pretty talented. And like I said, I watched the kid from Bridgeland play in high school, and I was on my show before the season started. I said, if they leave their glove out on the mound, that kid's going to take this job because he was really good, and I think it's his job to give back. But they manhandle him. Not that anybody cares about A&M in Louisiana, but it was all physical. We can go by every single play that went on, but from the opening snap, I mean, the physical application, they decided to run the football, and they weren't going to be denied, and to the tune of a whole bunch of carries and a whole bunch of yards.
There's no doubt. I mean, A-Chain ran 38 times for 250.
Yep.
Nobody wanted to tackle him.
So total about 50 carries in the game for all of them. Yep.
It's incredible. So the big question, if you're LSU, is that a symptom of a greater problem, or do they just have a bad day where they didn't want to tackle 6?
Well, I think that if it was a consistent, I've watched it, obviously, them pretty much, other than a couple of the games that they were going to blow the team out. I've watched them pretty closely this year. You watch them far more close than I do. I don't know if during, at least what I've seen, during the streak where they were putting themselves in position to play for a playoff, they tackled pretty well, and they got after it. So I'm going to lean towards, I don't think this is a product some deeper, although you're going to need better players in certain situations. They're going to have to get better on the roster. They are. Brian Kelly knows it. They weren't a great team this year. They had great moments and great games and great moments in games. I don't think we looked at LSU, if we're being fair, and say, oh, my God, I think Brian Kelly did a hell of a job. And they did they've got players. We know that. We talk about it all the time. But they weren't a great team from start to finish. They had those moments of greatness, and then they had some lapses, too, which put them in, obviously the most recent one, put them in a position where now they're not going to be playing for the playoff. But I don't think it's a deep issue. I think you have a bad day. Now, I can go through teams that I can tell you when it's week in and week out, it's the same mistake being made, either out of position, not wrapping up, head down, not seeing what you hit, all those things that we talk about, cliches. I didn't see that throughout the season where on a regular basis we say, you know what, LSU, they can't tackle anybody. Yeah. A&M was committed to something. They saw it. They went after it. They got rhythm, and for whatever reason, they've been humiliated, like I said. And an embarrassed team, when you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids and a coach who's been laughed at all year long, the butt of a lot of jokes. They had something to play for, and that was pride, and that can be a dangerous thing and a scary thing because you play a lot looser because you expected to lose at least most of the people thought, well, LSU's going to go in there and win. Well, dangerous game, especially when it's a pretty good rivalry.
Sean Salisbury is with us on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. So I asked Brian Kelly this question on Monday. I'll ask it to you. You played the game, and at various points, of course, you deal with highs and lows. But do you worry about LSU at all sort of getting off the mat this week, considering everything that was lost in College Station last Saturday?
I do. This is where you find out. And remember this, Matt, we do it like as grown adults, we have those lapses. And I'm not saying these kids aren't adults. They are, but you know what I'm talking about. They are. Who do they play again this week? Who do they play?
Right. I mean, you play the number one team in the country. I mean, that should get anybody's attention, right?
I'm actually being
I know.
Facetious, right? Yeah, of course it is getting off the mat. But if that, what coaches will always tell you, I didn't hear what Brian told you. What coaches will also tell you is that you got to get over, and I always say this to guys I'm around, you got to get over the wins and the losses equally as quick, right? And we've all been, I mean, it ain't the first time. You weren't undefeated going in. It didn't blow an undefeated season. And you've got the reigning national champs. You've got a team that everybody in America, it's going to be like a 97% win percentage that LSU's got no shot.
Yeah.
Now I don't know that's what Kirby Smart's not telling them, but that's what they're saying. So you got a choice. Now, if they were playing somebody that was just a mid-level team, I'd say, yeah, you'd probably see some sloppy football because of the situation. But they reverse it in a much less way because A&M's had a bad year, is you were humiliated last week if you're an LSU. You got pounded by a team that's been embarrassed all year long. Now you're going on the road to play the number one team in America, and you're playing for a conference championship. Even if you win by 30, you're not going to the playoff, but you can sure send a loud message heading into your off season. And then you can tell us what team you really are. Are you mostly A&M's game? Are you mostly what we saw in this one against Alabama? And it's basically a home game as well for Georgia. So, yeah, Matty, I would think that it's tough normally, but if a coach has to give one single word of speech to whether you're 18 or whether you're 40 in a game like this, probably best you get out and go find something else to do, because there's a lot of pride involved, and there'd be something to be said. If you could go in there and beat the number one team in America and play out of your mind, people won't even be talking about the A&M game. I mean, maybe in-house they will, but it'll blow off. This is the biggest game. Last week was big, but this is bigger simply because of who it is and the circumstances. So I would expect them to be fine, because I don't think last week is who LSU is. I think it was a moment. And it was a moment for 60 minutes that wasn't very good.
So if I ask you, if you're putting together a game plan of how to beat Georgia, where do you start?
Well, listen, one thing we have to realize is we're not exactly talking about a team that's filled with hacks going in to play Georgia, right?
Yep.
And Georgia's going to, and I'm going to tell you why Georgia's going to try to bring their best. They, last year's situation in this game and in the SEC title game, but also, listen, if they lose, they got to travel out to Arizona. If I'm not mistaken, isn't the 2 and 3 seed in Arizona?
Yeah,
they'll go there. If they win, isn't it the Peach Bowl? Don't they stay at home 1 and 4?
The higher seed would essentially get to choose which game. So yeah, I would.
And you know where they play, right?
Yeah.
Stay home, right?
Yeah.
No travel, stay right there. A little short drive from Athens, Georgia. So while I know it's Georgia, well, they can win anywhere. Well, hell, you got your people right there, and you don't want to have to travel. And travel's much easier for you. This matters to Georgia. Aside from the fact they lose, they're going obviously undefeated, all these things. So they're going to bring their best. But we also we shouldn't be talking at LSU. I know what happened at A&M, but real quickly that they're going to get, if they don't, they're going to get hurt. I know 18 to 22-year-old kids, like I said, but you don't want to go out there and get hurt, because Georgia's not messing around. It's grown-ass dudes going to fly around, try to put a stable, because Michigan, I actually would have had Michigan first this week for me. So the LSU better, and what will happen in the first quarter if you're sleeping a little bit after what happened at A&M, it'll wake you up quick. It's going to be like taking a punch to the face that you didn't see. So be ready. But LSU's a good team. I said they weren't a great team. They're a good team, and Georgia knows it. So to beat them, you're going to have to do something special, Matty, and something special meaning, like, for instance, last week, you saw Ohio State egoed up and said, here's how we're going to stop Michigan, and go good luck. Well, They decided to do it, and J.J. McCarthy, who the last couple games had missed some throws, made them all. They hit 5 home runs, I think, over 40 or 50 yards last week. The total, I can't, but a couple long runs, 3 big plays. They hit the home run. I'm big on making the common play. I don't think you can go 75 yards 4 or 5 times against Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm not just saying LSU. I don't know many that can.
Right.
I really don't. And so if we knew the exact remedy, we'd all bottle it up and say, okay, here's how you go get Georgia. You're facing a front seven that's going to fly around, even with all the first round losses. They can cover you in the back end. They have been in some close games, but they're used to coming out of the locker room and hitting you in the mouth and hanging around and 4 touchdowns off I think was it last week or the week before they came on, started sluggish and then started to pick up the tempo. I mean, everything about Georgia. Their quarterback is an overachieving, tough, big game player, Stetson Bennett. So you're going to have to do something special. And for me, it's going to be like this. Now, I don't know how you do it. You got to get lucky, put your hat on the football. One of those strip sack fumbles on Georgia's 35. Short field, go score. And I'm going to suggest one other thing. If you're in the red, don't kick field goals. If it's 4th and 2, go for it, unless the game's within a field goal, because you're going to need to, because the score's not going to be 10-3 in this game. So you're going to need red zone touchdowns, and you're going to need the short field a couple times to do that special thing like, ooh, we're up 21-3, and make them chase, and they can still chase. Now, listen, they don't dress in a phone booth, but sometimes it looks like it. The other side is when Jaden's got a chance to hit a home run, you got to hit it. You got to hit it. When you got a chance to, in the open space, make a guy miss and go, it's going to take that. A blocked field goal, returned. I know, well, Sean, Georgia's not that good. Well, they can be. They're really good. And LSU's a good team. Georgia's a better team. So when you're playing somebody, especially what you're coming off and with Georgia, everything on the planet to play for, national title, SEC championship, last year, I mean, back-to-back titles, you're playing for a 1 seed, all those things. You expect Georgia's best, and they got pride too. So you're going to have to do something different. It's no different than when you play Mahomes when they're at their best. Something special, because you're not going to stop him for 4 quarters. It's the same way there. You're not going against that defense or going to stop. They're going to score, and you're not going to go 80 yards 4 or 5 times in a game. You're going to have to hit a couple home runs. You're not going to be able to slog this one out and beat Georgia.
Yeah, I think, of course, I agree with you. What about on the other side? Defensively, what do you do against that offense which scores 38 a game?
I guess for me, I mean, you look at it, if I was game planning, it's easier said than done. Well, let me ask you from an LSU standpoint, and from my standpoint, what's the strength of their offense?
Of Georgia's offense, I would.
Yep.
I mean, it's got to be the tight ends in the running game.
Right. They're running, and and they got 3 tight ends. I mean, that are 2 in particular dominant, but they got 3 guys. I mean, they're phenomenal. You've got to take care of. If you win on first down, Matt, I'm a big first down guy on both sides of the ball, and put them now. I know they're all capable of overcoming stuff, but if you can win on first down, for instance, let's say you get to 2nd and 9, play action shouldn't be as effective, right? Why? Because you like to think, well, and I know for Georgia, it still may be a run down for them, but play action so you don't get caught out of position and you can prevent the tight end, what we call the tight end bender against the 2 deep safeties where they get down the middle of the field, or the seam routes, or all those things where those tight ends become effective and they get a freer release because you're so worried about the run game. Now, if this sticks, or if it's 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, 3rd and 3, it's going to be a long day, because Bennett can throw. He has a propensity to play really good in big games. The tight ends are monsters, and they are physical at the line of scrimmage and will wear you down. So you can't be dominated on first down. Force them, and I don't, like I said, the one dimension, and I know we can say that about a lot of teams, but when I say one dimension, they'll be in 2 dimensions and running the football and throwing it if it's still 3rd and 6. So you have got to force them to long yarded situations, which it's hard to do. And then you've got on the other side, make sure you don't give them the short field, and you must protect the football. And let me give you one last thing. I can't play this game scared, Matt, this week. I can't. If you go in playing not to lose, they're going to curb stomp most teams they play. This has to be, hey, if it's second and 2, and we're at our own 30 and they play press man and they're going to blitz us, zero coverage, take a shot. Take your shots this week when they're judicious, but take your shots. But the strength of that team, obviously, is their tight ends. The quarterback's really good, underrated probably on when it comes to because he doesn't fit the measurables, but he's a winner. So you better win on first down because if they're running for 4 or 5 yards a pop or getting it to 2nd and 4 and 3rd and 2, I'm not sure. There's no team in America that's going to beat them doing that. First down's the down. You got to beat them and take play action away. So then you can at least try and cover the tight ends, knowing you don't have to be overly worried about a 3rd and 8 run game. At least you hope.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.